Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Senior Spot. My name is Jenn Quinn, and I'm really pleased to have here today as guests some representatives from Cooperative Elder Services, which is known in the area for its multiple locations of adult day social programs. And today we have Michelle and we have Laura that are here to be able to tell us about the programming and how exceptional it is for people to be able to go and be a part of. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Excellent. So before we get into your individual roles, I would love just for one of you to be able to describe what Cooperative Elder Services does for folks in the community.
Absolutely. So we are an adult day health center. We're a nonprofit. We have 5 locations in Arlington, Burlington, Groton, Milton, and then Laura and I are joining you from our Concord location. And we provide a structured health environment for people to come to during the day. We have skilled nursing services, we have service coordination, and then we also have the activity piece of things. So it's a great place for people who need a little more support during the day. We're open and ready to have them join us.
Well, and it's a great support, not just for the folks, but also for maybe the family caregivers that are supporting people day in and day out, and maybe it's a great break and a great respite opportunity for them. And because our viewers are in mostly the area that would be pertaining to your Concord and your Groton location. So I just wanted to put that out there again, that in this immediate area, those are the 2 locations that you'll find would be most accessible for people to go to. And adult day programs, we have them popping up, but tell us just a little bit more about the medical model that you have, because that really is a differentiator for you.
It is, absolutely. So while the activities piece, the programming during the day is critically important, we also know that people are joining us with a variety of medical needs and issues. We have licensed clinical staff there with us the entire time that we're open. So they could be helping people with any number of things, whether it's med management, participant and caregiver education around medical issues, and also just checking in and monitoring throughout the day. It's not uncommon for our staff to pick up on an issue before it becomes a critical factor in someone's life, and communicate with the families, communicate out with PCPs and other medical providers, and make sure that everybody's in the same loop.
Great. So, whenever I've walked into your locations, there's just always something great happening, and not just one thing. Sometimes there's things happening in multiple, locations within the center, and so a big part of it is your programming. So that's really what you're going to be able to share with us today, and I'm thrilled that you're going to be able to tell us more in detail, the types of things that you have going on and how you come up with it. So Laura, so you are tell us your title and what your position is there.
Absolutely. I'm the program coordinator at the Concord site, and what that basically means is that I coordinate the day-to-day operations, the programs that go on, the different activities, the staffing, the schedule of the day, things like that.
Excellent. And so I know you're gonna be able to share some real specifics in terms of what's on your monthly calendars and things like that. But I guess part of the planning and the programming really comes from the philosophy and sort of the overall approach and the overarching ideas and missions. So could one of you speak to how you utilize those philosophies in planning your programming to be engaging, to have there be stimulation and things that people are really enticed by to do?
Absolutely. Well, I'll say a couple of things, and then I'm going to hand it off to Laura, who really knows the ins and outs. Overall, at Cooperative Elder Services, we're focusing on holistic well-being of the people coming through our doors. And so, again, we spoke to the nursing piece of it earlier, but we have the service coordination, and the activities is a really key part of what we do, because it's really connecting with who is this individual and making sure that we're bringing that out and we're still speaking to the things that they love and the interests that they have. And Laura can speak to more of the individual sort of approaches and philosophies we have there.
Well, one thing we definitely believe in is we want to make sure that all of our programs are geared towards adults, and specifically the adults that we have. We want to make sure that we're offering a variety of programs that are not only failure-free, but really speak to the interests of the many diverse people we have.
Sure, and I personally have been, walked in and seen people, especially some of the gentlemen wearing hats that, they're very proud of, whatever it happens to be. Maybe they're, maybe the college, maybe, a branch of the service that they were in. And I've witnessed and seen the way that you integrate their background and their interests, and it's really exciting to see that it's not one size fits all. It's very customized and individualized. So when you're coming up with these ideas, so what is your process? And this would probably go to Laura. So how do you set up, because you are trying to meet the needs of many different people, and I love the use of failure-free. I really love that term. I haven't heard that used, and I love it. I think that just makes a lot of sense. So how do you go through the process of creating, a plan? Because you come out with it a month at a time, and there's a lot of work put into it. So how do you do that?
Yes, it is. It's done month by month. Basically starts with a blank piece of paper, and I usually kind of kick it off with putting in, of course, the holidays, special events that are happening. We just celebrated National Siblings Day, for instance. I'm sure you knew.
That must have brought up some great stories.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Things like that. Today, I can say I just left the program and we were celebrating National 1 Cent Day.
Oh,
so we have games with pennies and things like that. So I'll add in a few things. But then honestly, it gets posted and the entire team get together and they write down their ideas, their suggestions, things that interest them. And then we do meet at each month and talk about our ideas. We all build upon them. Oh, yeah, I have pictures of that, and I can help with this. And why don't we bake this to go along with Cinco de Mayo, for instance?
Oh, and you do have a great kitchen area, which
do.
makes a big
We
difference
do.
too.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing like the smells of cooking, and if, maybe
Right.
someone isn't able to do much cooking at home any longer,
Absolutely.
Exactly.
and they can actually participate. There's the supervision there. Nothing's going to happen.
We have a lot of cooking groups.
Yeah.
So not only does the entire team build on the programming, we also hold a town meeting, we call it, with all of the participants. And it's an opportunity for them to let us know what kind of programs they would like to see, what they're interested in, or, hey, I used to quilt. I'd love to bring in my quilts, which we actually did just recently.
Sure.
We had a participant bring in and show off her quilting work, which was fantastic. It's a great time to really check in on the programs and what they like, what they don't like.
Well, and that seems to me like a nice way for the participants to also find connections with other participants too that you don't even know about, or to have a special connection, like say with Michelle. Maybe Michelle is a quilter,
Right.
And a special connection and being able to say, oh, you know what, that's something that we have in common.
Yeah.
And kind of breaks the
Yes.
ice a little bit
Yeah.
too. But I love the idea of the town meeting. I mean,
Yeah.
having a quorum of,
Yes.
what do we want to agree? So
Yeah.
what are some of the big hits that come up over and over again that are kind of reoccurring?
Oh, the big hits. Well, of course, we have entertainers that come in each month. That is always a big hit.
Dancing is a big
Yes,
part of what we
dancing.
do in Concord.
Okay,
So
okay.
anybody who can come in and get us all up and moving, that's a big part of what we do.
Any particular type of dancing or just any dancing?
Any dancing. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Indeed.
That's great.
Indeed. We have a lot of specialized educational programs. We just did one last week on Maya Angelou, for instance, her life story, her works, and they found that very interesting. We had a staff member bring in a lot of different music boxes and talk about the history and the building and the making of and demonstrations.
Oh, wow.
Things like that.
So, I mean, and your focus is really about, what remains. There's so much that remains because there are a
Absolutely.
good number of folks that have memory impairment in your program. What would you say, would you say that the majority of folks have, some sort of memory impairment, right?
What we know is about 70 to 75% of the people who join us have some form of dementia.
Right. So, I mean, for to be able to bring up, failure-free activities, bring up things that are of interest that spark really wonderful memories, and, to give people an opportunity to have a choice and a say in what they're doing is
Yes.
huge.
Yes.
And that's what whenever I go in, I always see that there's options, there's choices, and
Yes.
that's huge.
Yeah, we rotate the programs about every 45 minutes, and at any one given time, there's a variety of programs that they can choose which one they would like to participate in and what interests them. And each program kind of is geared towards a different cognitive ability.
Okay, so it's
that there's
differentiated.
something for everybody.
Yep.
Exactly.
So I mean, in my world of education many years ago, we modified things for people. It's
Right.
very
Exactly.
similar, which is
Yes.
great because you want to meet people where they're at.
Where they are.
So I love the idea that everybody contributes to the calendar, which was really nice for you too, because you get off on one track and you're not really thinking about other things.
Yeah. No, it's not a one-man
So-
show. I cannot do it without our amazing staff. And all the participants also give great ideas. Then it also, once we print it all up, we get submitted to an occupational therapist
Okay.
within the company, and she reviews, make sure that we're fitting all of the needs that need to be fit, and then it goes to print. And honestly, that's just the beginning.
Right.
Really, it's the staff that bring it to life every day and really add in. For instance, on we'll have a dog appreciation day, and who will come in with a shirt, with dogs on it,
Right.
and Cinco de Mayo will dress up and things like that.
Well, I
and
remember
bring in
once
different things.
I was there and it was doing a singing program, and one of the women that works there has the most beautiful voice ever.
Yes.
I couldn't even believe. I mean, I turned around and she's this little thing, and her voice was it was beautiful.
And if you don't create opportunities for varied programming, you would never know that somebody has that beautiful
Right.
ability. And that's just with our staff. We're blown away all the time with what our participants bring in through the door every day.
Exactly.
So
So true.
it's important, as Laura was describing, that feedback loop. That's why it's so
Sure.
important to be picking everybody's brains,
Right.
because there's just so
and
much
then,
going
and then
on.
the families, they have an opportunity too, when they see something, highlighted on the calendar that they can mention, we have a special connection, or
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. Yes, we also definitely want to be hearing from caregivers and
Absolutely.
from families, and because you may not feel comfortable as a participant saying, like, I have the most amazing singing voice in the entire world, or I'm the
Right.
best tap dancer you've ever seen. But who else is going to
Right.
brag for you but family?
Right. And it
So-
might not be something that's top of mind for somebody.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
you might be talking about, I don't know, Washington's birthday or whatever it happens to be, and
Right.
somebody might have, a family relation to him.
Absolutely,
Who
right.
knows?
Yeah, it's
And
so
then
true.
Yeah.
you bring it back up. So you go through a very extensive process with a lot of people that are participating. So tell me about some recent examples of programs that have been very successful, like maybe some new things that you've done that you're really excited about.
Oh, everything from World War II resistance movement,
Okay.
which we got a lot of feedback on from the families. They
Yeah.
really enjoyed that. To, like I mentioned, the music boxes, the quilting program. I think cooking is always a big hit. It just covers a lot of different senses for people: the smell, the taste, the touch.
And to that end, too, we'll be opening up we've already been out on our patio because we've had a few really beautiful days, but our gardening program will really be kicking off. That's such an important thing for people, too. And with the quilting one in particular, I'd like to highlight because I think it's a great example of this came from a participant's particular interest. And while some of the folks in the room, it may not be a shared interest of theirs or a passion or a love, because it was coming from somebody that they enjoy spending time with during the day, they were really engaged in it.
Sure.
And,
So true.
and
Doesn't
people,
mean they're going to start quilting. It means that
I
they're
know.
appreciating it and they can see a totally different side of somebody.
Absolutely.
Yes.
For the craft that it is, for the individual bringing it to them. One gentleman in the room commented, he goes, quilting is not unlike building homes, which is what he used to do. He said, you've got to have this visual at the end that nobody else can see, but you've got the whole plan to make it happen. And I thought that was just so lovely. Here he was, again, if maybe at another point in his life he wouldn't have wanted to go to a program about quilting, but here he was making that connection to something that was very near and dear to him.
Yep.
So
Well, it makes people have the sense of belonging and value and
Absolutely.
meaning and purpose, and that's really what everyone seeks throughout the whole course of their life, is having meaning and
Absolutely.
purpose.
It's so true.
And also, you're helping to make people instructors too. So you're helping to make them, be able to teach something and feel really good about it and be a leader, in your group.
Right. We are all experts in our own ways, and so we're here trying to lead the day and put some structure around it, but we don't know everything, and we
Well, and that's the other
many
thing I've
and varied
noticed too,
talents.
walking in, is I like the fact that it's, obviously you have all of these options, everything's very well planned out, but it's free flowing.
Yes.
It's not as if you're going to stop something or
We really
because it
try,
runs
yeah.
over time.
Oh, yeah.
You're aware that it doesn't have to have a specific end,
Right.
which is important because then it's very natural.
Yes.
There's such therapeutic value to people being engaged and feeling engaged, and so you don't want to cut that off right in the middle of
It's 12:30.
something.
We need to
Yeah,
move on
right.
to
Time to
Sorry.
head on in.
Exactly.
No.
So, programs that are successful that you do, is it because people are excited about it? Is it because people are feeling comfortable about it? Why do you think that some of those exciting programs, why do you think some of them are more successful than others?
All of the above. I mean, I think sometimes it has a personal interest for them. It might spark a memory. It might be like, oh, I've been to Canada before. You're going to talk about Canada? Great. I'd like to share that. Or it could be something, but I've heard people say as we're walking into the room, well, I don't know anything about that. I'm excited to learn about it. So, yeah.
But I do think, Laura always says, and when we're having our staff meetings, she reminds staff, if we're enjoying ourselves,
And you know what? You do. I mean, I've
We
never
do have
walked in
we have
there
a very
without
good
seeing
time.
smiles on your faces and being engaged and someone
Yeah.
having their hands in something and doing something else. And that's exciting to me because, it's infectious, and
It is.
especially with our folks with memory impairment, there's, what we call mirroring. And a lot of times it's all about what you're emulating, what you're doing, someone is going to feed off of. So if you're excited about doing something, you're genuine about
Absolutely.
it,
So
then it's
true.
just going to be a lot more positive,
Yeah, they
Now-
feed off our energy for sure. Smiles are contagious.
They are, and there are always smiles, and they're all around the participants and the staff too. But it's not all smiles and happiness. Let's
Not
just face that.
always,
So,
right.
I know in my interactions with Cooperative Elder Services that if I'm referring someone, to go there, it's based upon the fact that I think that it'll be a really good mix for their life. Whether it be that they're going to be there 2 days a week, whether they're going to be there 3, 4, 5 days a week, which is really nice too, might I add, about your flexibility. But usually, it's at the point where there needs to be a change, and usually change is not something that people are very keen on or fond of.
Right.
So, you might meet some hesitancy on the person that's going to be, going, and you might get, well, I don't think they like quilting, and they don't. The war brings up bad memories for them. Sometimes people are just going to come up with every scenario in which will kind of block the
Right.
opportunity to go. So, what do you say to that person? That really feels like Cooperative Elder Services would be a great opportunity for their loved one and for themselves too, because it gives usually a caregiver a break there. What do you say to them when they say, "Well, I don't think they're going to like X, Y, and Z," and you're kind of you're striking out? How do you reassure them that it's the right place?
Yeah, we tend to say you try to look beyond the activities of specifically of what we're doing. I think we try to provide people with a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose back in their lives. The friendships that get built are really special to see. It's a real community feel, and I think that's beneficial for everyone. So, and I, as I tour people around and tell them about their program, I definitely get a lot of people that say, "Oh, I don't know if my husband, dad, brother will come here," but all I say is, well, if you can get them here, we'll take care of the rest.
Right. Well, and I also know that, based on just experience, that sometimes people will drop them there, and there'll be some resistance, but they're in the door and they're having a great time. And they might get picked up, and they might actually tell the family member that they didn't have a great time. So, that's what's great about having feedback and people there to be able to get over those hurdles.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, another big piece of it is we just tell people to communicate with us. If your loved one isn't able to tell us what they do love to do, tell us. What was their passion? What was their hobby? What was it that got them up and going in the morning? Our service coordination members, our team, so in Concord it's Courtney, she does a really thorough intake with the people who are coming in the door. And it includes all sorts of things, their medical history, social status, but also questions around who is this person who's going to be coming in and joining us. Our team is able to look at that intake sheet before this person starts, so we can say, they love card games. Great, because 3 times a week we know that there's a little game that gets going off to the side here when they don't feel like going into the programs we have scheduled. Fine, we get them set up on their own table and they go for it.
Well, that's what I notice is that as someone, they're always engaged in something. So sometimes you go to places and people are just sitting there, and that is not good for anybody. Mentally, physically, it's just not beneficial. So I don't see that happening there, which is, I think, a huge reason why someone would want to send someone to Cooperative Elder Services.
Yeah.
Well, and let's face it, there are days we're all adults, and as Laura pointed out earlier, we're working with adults. We're very cognizant of that. And there are going to be days where you don't want to be in a larger group setting. You don't want to necessarily be doing an educational program or running around doing a more physical activity. If we see somebody who's kind of off to the side and opting out, our staff are fabulous about engaging that person in conversation. How are you doing today? What's going on? What would you like to be doing? Whether it's getting them something to read or something to paint or any number of things, crossword puzzles. If they feel like doing a solitary activity, we're going to work with them on that.
Right.
But we're going to try really hard to make sure they're not just sitting there and they're not being engaged, because the whole point of it is they're getting out of their house and we're taking care of their holistic well-being.
So tell me a little bit about how that day goes. So in a day of programming, obviously you have a whole calendar of things that you're doing throughout the course of the day.
Right.
But upon arrival, what would a typical day look like? For your participants.
Sure. Yeah, they come in. We have kind of like a light breakfast, a little social time, toast, coffee, juice, milk, things like that. And then we kind of start the day. I usually introduce the day, the date, welcome everyone, let them know what we're doing that day, and I get a lot of funny comments and feedback from them. They really enjoy the process of, oh, what are we doing today, Laura?
Yeah.
And then we move into our programs. We have exercise every day. We have varied different programs going on at any given time, some with handheld weights. We have a Fit for Life program. We have some strengthening bands. We have chair yoga, things like that. So a variety of exercise. We really feel like that's important to make sure that happens every day. Then we'll break up into different activities, and that's where the calendar comes in. Anything from crafts to baking to educational programs. We'll have lunch, a full hot meal that's catered comes in, is provided. And then the afternoon, after lunch, we find that they've kind of been sitting down, eating in one place. So we also like to bring in a little bit more exercising and stretching after that. And then once again, the calendar takes over, and we'll break up into our groups. And before you know it,
and the time for arrival and the time for departure, that's all somewhat flexible as well too, isn't it? So that,
it can be.
It can be somewhat flexible, which is important too.
We
for some people.
understand that for certain individuals, for certain families, they may need some flexibility with their day, and we are nothing if not flexible. And so that's something that's really important for us to work on as well. We're very clear with people that we have a schedule, and it's important for us to be moving things along and keeping to that. But if their loved one needs to be joining us a little later in the morning or heading out a little earlier, we want to make sure that happens for them.
So I would love to just spend a little bit more time just hearing about the spotlight, I want to spotlight the World War II program, because you seem to kind of light up when you mention that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about that. I would imagine that there are many people that really can relate to that.
There were.
Yeah, we have a lot of veterans that come to our program, and it was basically just talking about the time period, the history of it, and we usually think groups like that start in one direction and then quickly evolve.
Right. Which you cannot even predict.
Exactly.
No,
which is part of the fun.
It
because,
is.
it takes
is.
on its own. It takes on its own being.
We have an amazing staff that will come with hours and hours of prepared, facts and worksheets and videos to show and pictures and library books and maps, a whole presentation. And then what comes from our participants, that's what really makes the program special.
And that's what I love, because you embrace that and you don't try to minimize that and stick to what the the agenda is of the curriculum.
Exactly.
You go with the flow, and that's exactly, because that's real life, and that's adult
Absolutely.
conversation and intelligent sort of banter. I'm sure there was plenty of back and
yes.
forth with opposing views of things.
Yeah.
Well, and that's it too. We've got some folks who were obviously in the armed services and were a part of World War II, and then there were some people who were on the other side of the thinking about, should we be engaged in something like this, or what should our role be?
And then you have women that were here when people were, or they were working, and they were working in the factories while they were away. So what a
then the men
mixture.
came home, and so it brings about, it seems like such a specific topic on the nose of it, but it really just opened up so much conversation during that day. That was a difficult group to finally break up and get everybody to have some lunch, because
you have to be continued.
They usually are,
absolutely,
Like we're gonna scrap the afternoon plans because it looks like we're going with this still.
Yeah.
But that one was a perfect example of a staff member who had read something, found the topic really interesting, and thought, I don't know enough about this. Let me spend a little time digging in, and then let me bring it to this group and have some really thoughtful discussions and conversations around it.
Well, and something else that I know I had talked with you about in the past was the idea that not everybody wants to obviously participate and go. Once they're there, they love it, but the idea of it. And I love how in the past you've incorporated people that are helping out and volunteering.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's say that someone was a nurse, and you do have nurses there, and so a family might be able to use some good, a good story in saying that you're going to be able to go and help out with medical staff there. So you're also extremely creative at finding the ways to make people feel most comfortable in even getting in the door. So and you're very flexible with that, because it isn't one size fits all. So I just wanted to kind of elaborate on that, past story that I know, because I think that the hardest thing about this is getting people in the door.
Yeah.
Once you're in, it's just fantastic. So through the programming, through the ways that you make people feel really important and individual, it's not one size fits all. Those are the things that make Cooperative Elder Services really special. And I'm so happy that you're here to tell us about, in particular, your Concord program, but also we have our Groton program as well in many other towns.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much for both coming in. It's a
Thank you,
wonderful
Jen.
place. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much for
Laura.
having us.
All right.